Welcome to the Simply Real Life podcast. I'm Sarah, the founder of Simply Real Health, here to help you simplify, amplify, and elevate your life. This show is for those of you who want the real talk on how to live a more intuitive and intentional life, a life that's healthy from the inside out, and one that feels more effortless, aligned, simple, and more alive. We cover it all, from health, wellness, mindset, motherhood, daily habits and rituals, to business and relationships, creativity and growth, and tiny tricks to feeling your best, and the energetics behind it all filled with personal stories, unfiltered conversations, and of course, answering all of your burning questions, all in the way of simplicity and keeping it real, so that you can create your own version of your healthiest life. Let's do it. Hi guys, welcome back to the podcast. I hope you're having a great week wherever you are, whatever you're doing while you're listening to this. I know a lot of times I feel like I'm driving or taking a walk or doing stuff around the house, laundry, dishes, the endless list of things to do. So I hope that this is finding you at a time of peace and maybe when you need a little bit of like a break or an infusion of energy or just something different going on, in your day, learning something. Well, I can't promise that this will be about learning. Today's episode is a different one, and it's actually one that I don't think I would have ever really thought of myself, but based on the feedback and the ideas, every time I do put a question box up and say, what do you guys want to hear? What do you want to learn about? The request to just do some simple, but really they're not simple, but like some life updates. What is really going on in my world over here? And I think it's such a good point because I'm sure if you are following me on Instagram that yes, like we see these like tiny snippets of life and I think it's amazing. And they also happen to be the time snippets that I have either allotted to have my phone, to show or to talk about things, because the reality is most of the time, if I actually showed you what I was doing all day long, it would be so boring. It would be so boring. It would be like me sitting at my computer for most of the day in a really messy bun, sometimes with my hair unwashed. Right now I'm sitting recording this in my sports bra in my office while the kids are playing at the park. So it's not glamorous. And I think most of you do know this. I really do try to showcase the real parts of life, but also it has kind of become a collection of the parts of my life that bring me joy in hopes that sharing those little moments with you all helps you look at your life that way. That's always my hope and intention. When this question came in, and it actually came in from multiple people, to just sharing a little bit more about what's going on, what's on your heart, what are the things you're thinking about, what are the things that are going on in life that may not necessarily relate to health, but just, showing us a little bit more about all the things that do go on. Like, do you think about the same things that we do? Do you worry about the same things? Are you always spending your time in perfect ways? And the answer is no, not at all. So today I thought I would just do a little life update. And if these are things that you like to hear, it's kind of just more like a conversation with a girlfriend. This is what I am talking to my girlfriends about right now when it's asking the question, how are you? What's going on in life? What's going on in your heart? Life update. Let's see. We are fully into the spring right now, and I have just had this overwhelming sense. I think it's because, as you know, we just launched and then closed the doors on Simply Real Life, the method, which is something I only do once a year. So it's always like this big push of energy, and I love it. It feels so fueling and nurturing to me every year getting to open that program because I get to like connect with people on such a deeper level, and I'm inviting them into my world in a weekly cadence where they can ask their questions of what's going on in their life, their real life scenarios that they're trying to figure out or piece together, or trying to figure out how do I approach either this person or situation differently. And it's basically the most up-leveled form of Q&A that there could possibly be with no time limits. And it's just my favorite thing in the whole world. It's always a really big push though of energy, I would say. And every year I have this sense of, okay, is it worth it? Because it can be stressful. Running a business, there are a lot of parts that are stressful and not glamorous. And you don't see me at 10 o'clock at night showing you that I'm on my computer trying to fix the back end of an email that's about to fire in the morning, or, links that are broken. I am at a place now in my business where it's been over 10 years. And so I thankfully, praise the Lord, have help and people on my team that are assisting with all of the things that would be impossible for me to do. There are not enough hours in the day for all the tiny nitty-gritty things that I'm sure most of you would never even think about, but they are a part of the job. And I find that in times of push seasons, there are seasons of go in your life, and then there's seasons where it's so much more about flow. And so this has definitely been a go season. And I know that going into it, I have time to prepare, we have time to plan way ahead. And we do. And yet every single time there are always things that are, oh shoot, we forgot about this, or this is taking a turn differently, or, things that we didn't necessarily anticipate. And so it just requires being a little bit more on. I have not been sleeping super great, I would say. I've been doing my CBD a lot at night because I just have so many things in my mind. And luckily at this point, it is not because of stress or fear or worry. It is more because I know there is so much energy output and I can feel that energy buzzing around me. So if you are at all like me and you are a little bit of an empath where you feel other people's energy in the room without them saying anything, I can feel people's energy online. I can feel people's energy when they're asking questions. And so to be in that high state of energy of giving and receiving at this really high level, it always makes me a little bit, it's just like harder to sleep. There's just so much more energy going on. And I find that over the years, I've become so much more sensitive to that. Whereas, back in my late 20s, I could stay up on my computer till 10 or 11 and just get things done and be working a lot of hours. Whereas now, if I do that, man, I pay for it. If I'm on my computer at 10 o'clock at night, even if I'm wearing blue blocking glasses, I feel its effects. My brain is still buzzing when I'm lying down to sleep. But you know what? It's all okay. I always ask myself, is this worth it? Is it worth putting my body, my mind through this state of higher energy and sometimes higher stress? And the answer is always yes to me. And I think that's just a good question to always come back to because you never know if the answer might be different. And it's a big deal. And we hold the space for so many women. And it is all hands on deck and all in. And I love that. And I do love the energy, the excitement. But to me, I think about the end result and how these women are going to feel in 6 weeks. Is that worth it? Is the transformation of that many women all at once in this magical group worth it? Yes, it is. Just sharing this because I am not always perfect. I'm not always living in this bubble where everything is the same and I'm perfect at night routines. That's not realistic. I think especially if you run a business, if any of you do run a business, you will hear me on this. Even if you are seasoned, even if you have help, even if you do all the planning in the world, there is still this element of you're all in all the time. There are not really a lot of breaks, especially when you are in a high energy or output season. And that's what this is. And I also know on the flip side that I have a lot of seasons that are much slower on purpose in my business to help me keep the balance for myself, even in my own nervous system, right? That I need to have periods of break, of rest, of times where I'm just more so in mom mode, and then sometimes it's more in work mode, but it's always kind of towing that line back and forth. That brings me to my next thought, where I just have had this thought lately all the time, and it's this constant checking in. Okay, I am definitely in my mom era right now. I am in my mom era, and I want to be embracing that more, not trying to do half and half, but I want to be fully in on that, and yet also this is my business era too. Both of these things where I have had on my list of visions and dreams and manifestations years and years and years ago. And I look around and it is exactly where I'm at now. This is all of the tending and all of the nourishing and all of these seeds that I have planted are feeling like they're just growing around me in this amazing way. And also in a way where it's like, oh my gosh, I'm trying to keep up, and it's all so wonderful. And then I sometimes get this pressure of, okay, am I enjoying it enough? Am I present enough? Am I doing as many things as I can with that full heart and the full attention? And I've noticed lately that I think it's because I've been in this sort of push and go season in my business that I notice myself being on my phone a little bit more around my kids. And I just don't like that. that. I didn't grow up with that. I didn't grow up with parents, and none of us did in my generation, where your parents had this device or this thing that you knew they were not fully paying attention to you. And again, I come back to, but it was also not really an option for a mother to be working and have an online business back then. It gives me so much freedom, that technology, to be with my kids more. But it also is, what is the line? And I used to feel a little differently about it because my kids were younger. And I knew that, while they're napping, it doesn't matter. While they're playing, while somebody else is watching them or helping take care of them while I work, it's different. But I just noticed myself in those times when I am with my kids, that maybe it's because there's a season of high energy in my work, that I'm noticing I'm not doing such a great job with my boundaries on technology and on my phone. And so that's something that I am just currently keeping a little pin in for myself. Make sure, just get this back on track. This is not feeling so great. And what are ways I can do that? It's just a little peek inside my brain. I'm just feeling this sense because my kids are now, 4.5 and 1.5. And I just see the fleetingness, of it all. I see the fleetingness of their littleness. I see the fleetingness of this just sort of sweet and very tender time that I know that I won't get back. But it is also this constant question that I have of myself. Do I want to be working a little less? Maybe a little less. Yeah, there's a lot of things that I could be passing off better, or just needing a little bit more help and support on as, my kids grow, and as my capacity grows with work, and as I keep more fully stepping into my calling and my purpose and what I'm here to be and what I'm here to teach and lead and what I want to do with Simply Real Health as a company and as an experience. I always have to keep asking myself, okay, time and energy and output, how is it feeling to me now, knowing that I'm different, every season? I mean, let's be real, every week I'm different, just like based on hormones alone. So it's just that kind of question I have in the back of my mind of what's the balance like? And I think thinking about going into summer and fall, I always think of the seasons as each of them have a little bit of a different energy and things that you sort of shift around. So I'm very much in that process right now, trying to figure that out, which I guess leads me to the other things going on in my head and life. We are looking for a new nanny right now. Our most wonderful nanny in the world is going back to school. And so she is moving on from us, and I'm so happy for her and her growth. And she's just been such an amazing blessing for our family in every way. And all of the moms out there, I know you'll feel me, finding a new person to take care of your littles and just the energy that they bring. I guess also because I work from home, it's just energy matters to me so much, just their vibe and their energy and their mood. And I'm very big on those things, as you can imagine. So it's just been a lot of work and a lot of time, those late nights and those, emails and responding to messages and doing interviews. And I know it's all for a good reason, but a lot of these things feel like they're shifting for me, especially when it comes to support and reevaluating my role and my time in my work and with my kids or family and for myself. So yeah, that's the real, that's the real of it. And it's just takes a lot of time and energy and love, I think, going into it. So that's where we are with that. I will also say it has kind of made me realize that I do need more help and support on the team, like even an intern, an admin. I am still doing too much of the things that it doesn't have to be only me doing. So if any of you are out there and you're like, I am ready. I know I get DMs a lot from people that are like, I will work for free, whatever you want. This is your call. Now might be a good time, to talk about it. We just need more help. We are just always growing. And I think with things like doing the podcast, there's just all these big goals and visions that I have. And I know that I have time, to make them happen. They don't have to be all at once, but I do feel that I need to grow my support team again, and knowing that those are always changing. It feels like this influx, right? Of energy, of a lot going on, a lot of things sort of like shifting. So I am really trying to do the best I can to take care of myself, and especially thinking so much about my nervous system lately and how I can help regulate that, and just really being diligent about trying to get to bed on time, and maybe even a little early, because I find, is it just me? Why does it take me so long to get ready for bed? I don't even really know what I'm doing. Well, I do. And then I think of things like, oh yeah, I should put my workout clothes out for the morning, and just these tiny things. And I'm like, what? I thought I was getting in bed early tonight. I guess not. I just sort of putz around, I think, for those last 20 minutes, and who knows what happens. But I am trying to rein it in a little. And hey, listen, like, you have so much going on right now, not only with work and your family, and again, these like support systems, and holding space in the community for the program, and coaching and teaching live, and doing the podcast, and doing all of our regular blog. And anyway, so I'm trying to just really mother and tend to myself, as well as all of these other parts of life. And it just doesn't always look pretty. And I guess that's what I'm trying to say, is that I need so many reminders all the time. All the time. Come on, get real. Let's get with the program here. What's going on? Stay focused. Just not letting things that are going on externally pull me way off track. It's okay if it's, a little bit of shifting here and there day to day. But when I find myself in sort of patterns that are not really helpful, I'm like, all right, just get it together, Sarah, let's get with it. Okay, let's see. I feel like we've talked about a lot of things. I am also loving, this is so random, but this ties into this. One of the things that is helping me right now is that the weather has changed. So especially for us living in Seattle, I know not all of you do, but when you do, when the sun comes out, it's this magical thing, and this special thing where you can be outside, and even just to not have to wear a sweatshirt, and that the clouds are not in the sky. It's amazing. It feels kind of rare sometimes, but when it does happen, it just changes everything. So I have just been loving our backyard, and many of you know, if you do follow me, that last summer we did this gigantic yard overhaul where we just cleaned everything out. We live in a really old house. It was built in like 1924. And so we've been trying to slowly do changes over time and kind of bring it back to life. And so last summer, the thing was the yard, and we put turf in the backyard and a patio, and we just took out all of the old overgrown trees and plants, and we had this random ramp that went through the whole backyard and the front yard. And so we just made it so much more functional, a space that we could really live in, like an outdoor living area. So that's been one of the things that is bringing me the most joy, is just like sitting and watching my kids just giggle and run around. And we have spent every weekend that it has been nice outside. We eat outside, we play outside. We have neighbors walking by and they come in and play, and it's just giving me so much life. And I'm just telling my previous self how worth it was to go through all last summer when we had crazy heat waves, to be sort of stuck in our house unless we went down to the water, which we would do every night, to pack up a picnic and just get out of the house because it was so hot. So I'm just like reminding myself, like sometimes doing the work on things, you see the payoff way later. And I'm just so glad that we took on that project, because now we're really getting to see all the fruits of it. And I think especially maybe in this life phase, I get so much joy out of being outside. My 4-year-old's just learning to ride a bike, and it's just really sweet time that, again, it feels so fleeting. And just these little simple things, like he was out there the other day and my husband was teaching him how to throw a little baseball into this tiny mitt that his grandma and grandpa got him. And it was just, wow, this is what life is about. And so that has been bringing me back so much to myself when I get that frenetic energy and that buzzing sort of feeling that I can't turn off. And like there's so many things in my mind, and I'm reaching for my phone to refresh things and get back to people, and I'm in my DMs too much. I mean, I love you all, right? But sometimes I just forget to have boundaries and times and spaces to do that. When it's not so frenetic, I'm so good about that. But when there is a lot going on, I don't want people to not have a response if they're waiting for something or things like that. So I'm working on that stuff too. But the being outside has helped me so much. So we've been doing walks again every day in that transition time after childcare leaves, and it's me back on with the kids, in that hour or two before we have dinner. And so it's just been a great, refreshing transition, and a reminder that whenever things do feel off, getting outside always helps. helps. And I think too, with the sun being out later, is that I also some nights, instead of doing a bath or taking my own 30 minutes like I used to do a little walk at night. And that's when I can do a podcast, or I can just listen to a meditation when I walk. Just having that, 20 minutes I'm watching the sun set, it's just so peaceful and the light is so beautiful. And it just reminds me to take a breath with millions of roles and different things that I do during the day, to just have that moment to myself. So I would encourage you, if you live in an area where you can do that, even if it's just once or twice a week, you just come back feeling better. Then I can do my little foam rolling and, just puts this end cap on the day that feels so nice and so special, that because it's not something necessarily that I would want to do in the winter when it's dark and cold outside. So on that topic, that leads me to something else that I feel like I have not been doing great about, and that is meditating. If you've been following me for any amount of time, you know that I've always sort of struggled with this. I know that it's so good for you, and I have read all the research behind it, and I feel like pretty much everybody that I admire when it comes to how they are in their life, including my own mom, they meditate. And I've just always had this funny relationship to it. I can get behind manifesting and visualizing and calling things in. I actually feel like I'm pretty good at that at this day and age. But meditating, just even the practice of sitting and quieting my mind and just breathing, I don't always make the space for it. And I got into this really good routine, I think kind of back in the fall, where I did start. And it was more, I guess, when I could do my red light, and that was 10 minutes. And then it would sort of force me to meditate. And I think because of this busier season of more frenetic energy going on, that I haven't always left the space and time for that, even though it's probably the thing that I need the most. And it's the thing that my body probably needs the most. So I am definitely trying to schedule it into my day, where I'm writing it on my to-do list as something that I'm going to do, which is probably the opposite of meditation itself. I get that, but at least to get the habit back into my life, I just feel like my body needs it, my mind needs it. There's just so many different things going on, and it does truly help, but it's not this thing that I get immediate feedback from, which is tricky, and it's not the thing where I do it once or twice and I'm like, oh, that was amazing. I don't feel like that at all. I feel like it takes me 5 to 8, maybe 10 times of doing it, and then my brain and body remember how good it feels. But in those first couple times, all you're thinking about so many other things on your to-do list, and you should be doing those things. And why are you, quote unquote, wasting 10 minutes doing this? So I feel like in every way, it's just calling to me again. Like I just get these reminders, right? Yeah, that would be something that would help when I'm in this kind of stage right now. And so you're hearing me now, okay? I am committed to bringing this back, again, not being all or nothing about it, but bringing it back into my life 3 or 4 times a week. And I think that's doable. I just need to schedule it in a little bit better and remind myself to do it. So I actually have a reminder set on my phone. And every day, the timing of it, I will say, is a little different. I know that I can find 10 minutes. And lately, even yesterday, I did a walk, and it was a walking meditation. And I'm like, I can do this, I can fit this into my life. I have to be a little bit less, I guess, intense about the scheduling, maybe for it to actually work, just to get myself in the habit. I oftentimes find it's so much easier to do things for small amounts of time and do them more often, so that then you can get to the point where you actually see the benefit and you feel the benefit. And then that becomes so much more motivating to want to continue, versus starting out with this, to me, what feels like a ridiculous thing, to be meditating for 20 minutes a day. What in the world? I don't have a free 20 minutes for anything. It seems like a lot. That's the max workout I'm getting these days. So I'm walking it back. Okay, 10 minutes is doable. So if any of you all are feeling the same, whether that's with the food that you're eating, oftentimes it's only 10 minutes that it takes to make a meal, or if it's 10 minutes to move your body in some way, or 10 minutes to get fresh air or go on a walk, 10 minutes to meditate. I oftentimes feel like the most powerful things can take just small amounts of time. It's just a matter of us actually scheduling it, showing up for it, knowing exactly what our body needs a little bit more of, and making the space for those things. And maybe, letting go of some other things that you normally do or typically do, especially when you feel like it's something that maybe you're missing a little bit in your life. So just a side note on that. Let's all hope we see me meditating a little bit more. Another thing that has been giving me life is our house and our home and feeling like we're in the next phase 2 or phase 3. I mean, let's be honest, maybe phase 11 or 12. Just depending how you look at it, like the next round of what actually does need to go here. What would be more functional, and starting to slowly replace things around the house and just pull it together a little bit more, and finding so much joy in that process. I am not necessarily somebody, I wouldn't say that I'm great with design, but I love looking at different things and thinking how that would go, or what colors look good, or what sort of piece we need there. So that has also been something that has just been really fun. I just find anything with design, anything that's around my home, making my home feel loving and cozy and welcome and just bright and happy. Like I want it to always feel like a space that is really calming for me, again, because I'm so sensitive to energies. I want my home to feel like an energy of relaxed and peacefulness. Even with 2 crazy kids running around, there's a lot that I can do to make the environment really feel like this magical environment. I've been having a lot of fun with that, both with outdoor stuff and getting our area a little bit more fully set up outside. And then also indoors. We got a lot of different areas and projects to figure out and pull together. And so it just lights up this other side of my brain that feels sort of similar to cooking to me, where it's looking at how different pieces go together. And it's a little bit more of like the creative side of my brain. And I just have been really loving that. Something else that I have just been noticing and thinking about, and I think it's because sort of anticipating summer coming up, and we have a couple of trips coming up this spring, something that I have been really, I guess, I don't know, working on or just thinking about is my relationship with drinking. And this just probably deserves an episode in its own, but I have just been feeling so great about my relationship to drinking. It seems like right now, so many people are talking about stopping drinking completely, or they feel like they're in the complete opposite end of the spectrum, where summer means, rosé every day and all the summer activities and social activities being about involving alcohol of some sort. And I don't know if it's just getting older, and I don't know if it's, having babies. I noticed a difference, especially after I had my second, that I just had this way less of an interest in it. And all of this to say, I love a great glass of wine. I grew up in a family where my dad actually he collects wine. He loves it. He's so educated about it. And I grew up around that mentality with it. It's this sort of beautiful European way of, you have some with a meal, and it's just always served with food and not really on its own. You're not drinking it to feel anything. It's just this very joyful part of a meal or a celebration. And I would say when I was younger though, and especially when I was starting my business, this probably happens to most of us, right? When we're like in our younger 20s, it's just so much more a part of your culture and your social life when you are younger or in your 20s. And I don't know if it's just that, right? Like just the age, or if something actually sort of physically shifted for me after I had my daughter, but I don't know. It just doesn't sound as good anymore. So I've just been on this process of being curious about it and truly listening to my body. That doesn't really sound good, or just because other people are, or it's just because it's a social situation, I'm not just going to do it, because I think I have just, the older I get, I'm just more sensitive. So even one glass of wine, it used to be I could do maybe one glass as long as it was natural and pesticide free and organic, and it was, like my natural wines I could do. And that was the first step, it seemed. Quality is better, and definitely one glass, no more than that. That's where it was feeling really good for me, I would say, before I had my daughter. After, I don't know if it's lack of sleep or just there's so much more going on in my life, like all these different elements. I just cannot stand the fact of even being taken down one notch. I don't have the time, the energy, the patience to even be one level down than my usual. So I need every ounce of that energy to be moving through my day. I don't want to feel bad. So it was first this upgrade, the better stuff. And then it was kind of like, you know what? I don't know if wine is really my thing right now. Every time I have it, even when it's the good stuff, not feeling so great. So it's just been this long sort of process of trying and testing. And I say this too with the hope that you know that I am so not about things having to be all or nothing or extreme. I think this area is a tricky thing to talk about with something like alcohol because it's a very addictive substance. And it's true, like there are many people that biologically and physically or genetically cannot handle alcohol. And that's really important to know. I also think there's this new shift happening of just reevaluating what works for you, either if that's a certain type, but finding maybe the one or two types of drinks that maybe you tend to do better with that don't make you feel so bad. And then even more important than that is thinking about like, what are the times and situations where it feels worth it to me? And I just feel really happy right now to report that it's not something I really think about often or do often, but then when I do have it, it feels like these situations and times that I'm like, yeah, that was like so worth it. It was about the experience. It was about something where I probably didn't have to be really on the next day, which let's be honest, that's pretty rare these days in this stage of life, but you get my point. And it just feels really nice to be in a place where I'm take it or leave it. And really it's situational. It's about how my body feels. It's about where I'm at in my cycle. It's about how much else is going on. But I feel like when I was, starting Simply Real Health and I was writing the cookbook and doing that in like 3 months and everything was like this, push stage of life where I would have a glass of wine, maybe a couple times a week. And it was more just like to relax or to unwind or disconnect from the day. And my view on it has just shifted now where I'm like, I'm only going to do it when I already feel relaxed, when I already feel peaceful, when I'm with my girlfriends or I'm out on a date night. Those things feel really good. And also it's about the timing for me. Like if I'm going to have it, it has to be a little bit on the earlier side, 5 o'clock maybe. I'm not going to have a glass of wine starting at 8 because it really messes up my sleep. And so I don't know. I just share that because I feel like, I don't know if it's because of the industry that I'm in where people are talking about either not doing it all and completely cutting it off, or they're on the other end of the spectrum. And I just feel like, wow, okay, I do think it's possible to have this sort of in between really happy middle place where it's not something I depend on. It's not something I crave. It's not something I feel like I'm missing out on if I don't have in any sort of situation. But that sort of freedom to just kind of decide, like, does this feel right now or no? Like, how is my body feeling on all levels? Is this something I feel like it could handle? Is this something that would enhance things? Or is it going to take away something, like either from my next day or later that night? And so I don't know. It's just interesting. This is something that I've been working on, but it is something I think that's kind of happened naturally and slowly. And I've just watched the progression, just being more of an observer in my body, like, oh, that's interesting. And just freedom to change your mind on things, freedom to not just do things because other people are or because it's what you've always done. But maybe it's also that I have better practices now of regulating my nervous system, of other ways to relax. There's just so many other things that I'm finding exciting and I'm finding relaxing, and, things like the design and getting our garden ready outside and just other sort of projects that I'm finding are really life-giving. And I guess maybe not feeling the need as much to disconnect from my life and just wanting to maybe engage more in my life instead of it being, whew, I need a break from that. So anyways, just sharing that because this is something I can never say in an Instagram post. I am too long-winded for that. There's not enough time in those little tiny squares. So these are just things, again, that have been on my heart and on my mind and things that I've been talking to girlfriends about. And it's just been really interesting because I always feel like when you are going through stuff and thinking through stuff, you're usually not alone. Like there's usually other people that are thinking or feeling a similar way. And so just having that space and ability to like talk about these things that are sort of random, but you may find yourself in similar phases or thinking about similar things. So just knowing that you're not alone. You'll have to let me know if you like these style of episodes. It's a little more loose, a little more off the cuff, just general life updates, things I'm thinking about, considering, working through, trying to get better at. But that kind of feels like a pretty good summary of where we are. This is also going to be funny for me to listen to, I think, probably, in a couple years from now. Anyways, I love you all. I hope you have a great rest of your week. And let me know if you have any questions or things that you want to talk about more, things you want to talk about less. I want to know it all. I love you guys. I hope you have a great rest of your week.
If you enjoyed this episode and want more like it, make sure you're subscribed to the Simply Real Life podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, and maybe share it with a friend or two. That would mean the world.